John, let us know when we're live, man.
Will do.
If and when.
We're live now.
Well, shit. Hey, guys.
We were live. Now there's an ad.
Watch the ad.
That's just for when you log in.
Everybody watch your ads carefully. Purchase that wallet. That's how I got skull-shaped ice cubes, for the record. I do have skull-shaped ice cubes.
Death Star here.
Nice. So we are here. All right. So welcome back to the Tides of Nergal, Warhammer Fantasy 4th edition here on Myth Brigade, and we have some of the best role players on the face of the planet for you today. James Grimwald, what are you doing, man? How you been?
Doing great.
Awesome. Work going okay?
Yeah, it's kind of boring actually.
I like boring work. Boring work is fantastic. It allows you the time to do other things like, draw pictures of, houses that you want to build and buy. Cool. So the star of the show today has got to be Eric Alcock, who is joining us from Reno, Nevada, in this fantastic hotel room. Why are you in Reno? Don't tell us anything that would get us in trouble.
I am finalizing the configuration of our new data center.
Computers. Cool.
Yes, computers and servers and routers and switches and firewalls. Oh my.
That's awesome. So at least they're working and you are able to join us from your hotel room. And you can order room service. That's pretty cool because none of the rest of us can do that. We can't make a phone call and get some food brought to us or something. So
I mean, the internet exists. I could do that once or twice maybe, but a little bit more than that, that'd be a little bit too expensive. He's got people waiting on him beck and call though. I don't have that. I
They're
wish
standing
I did.
just out of
That'd
frame
be
with a towel over their
It's like being warmed gently by a roasted like an actual wood fire stove.
Sir, your beef Wellington.
And your
You're just
salad, sir.
Describing Gunter now.
Your salad, sir. Nice.
Cool. So, and no, seriously, man, I'm glad you could join us. Most people would cancel, but your dedication's appreciated. Also, your functional computer shit is pretty cool too. John, what are you doing, man?
I know. I'm living, working. Busy week, but E3 was the past couple weeks, so other channel twitch.tv/slightly salted squad. We've been covering that.
What's that slightly salted?
Nonstop.
Squad?
Slightly salted squad. We talk about video game news, industry updates, and anything video game related. So there you go.
Awesome. Happy to have you. I'm glad they let you have a night off to come and be geeking out with us and stuff.
Yep.
Awesome. Rivers. So what happened to the hair, man?
What happened to what?
Lean down. We can't see your hair in this frame. You shaved. You shaved the head.
Oh yeah, it's all gone.
Nice.
Got rid of it because it was getting hot here in the south, and specifically where I work, it's humid to say the very least. And I was getting real fed up with having the mullet of destruction, as I'd like to. So,
that should be a magic item for 5e.
Hey, gotta enter, release the inner 80s. You know what I mean?
Lawful good in the front, fireball in the back.
Yeah. Yes. And no, I've been good. Work's been easy because it's just been lightweight. We've had some just some minor stuff come up. I've had an incident the other day where a guy had basically like a spring shoot straight through his chest. So.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was on a M240, and it was coiled up, and he took the bracket off the end, and it just shot straight through his chest because he wasn't wearing a plate. So guns are dangerous, kids.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that would suck on any day of the week. That's
he wasn't too happy about it. We also had the same thing happen about a couple days later, where like the basically the spring, it's about 1.5 feet long. Basically go about 1 inch deep through like a plate, like a front plate from a 3A, which is like the ballistic class that most civilians can get their hands on, and goes about like 1 inch, so about that far into his chest. Yeah, through the ceramic plating. So yeah, don't mess with Don't mess with guns. Don't mess with weapons, kids.
Sounds like we should be using springs instead of bullets. Damn.
Well, it's just the way they work, you know, to make like a fully like a machine gun be able to actually be fired. You know, you have to have suppression systems or basically stuff to help you. Otherwise, you'd be shooken apart. This is why the 50 cal is so fun to fire. It's like
that's a proper gun, and I'm gonna leave that one there. But that's pretty much more badass than anything anyone has said or is likely to say yet. So,
yeah.
Jim, what are you doing, man?
Pretty metal.
Thanks for joining us despite the plague. How are you, man? Jim, did we lose you?
Oh, sorry, didn't hear the beginning of that. I'm doing fine. Everything's good. We are live on V2 with my company project, which means that now there are 17 million Californians that are covered in our system for health information. So
Wow.
it's pretty massive. Yeah. So I'm kind of detoxing from crunch mode a little bit and just relaxing right now, taking it easy.
Damn, well done, man. Next thing, give them all water, and then they'll be happy and covered with healthcare zones. Man, that's awesome. Again, I don't know that.
Shots fired.
Some rivalry.
God.
Like I have. So we live in Florida where there's just heat and the elderly. That's like our main export and import as well. Cool.
No,
so,
we import them.
Yeah. Well, but then we export them generally very quickly thereafter.
It's like the main tributary to the River Styx.
Florida.
Can we just do these one-liner things instead of playing this? Nice. So I went on a cruise, and I hid in my cabin and read the Cult rule book, which was really cool. So I'm doing a thing with that. But happy to report that I work from home today, so I got here on time. Didn't have to deal with traffic, and I'm ready to roll some dice. So
and I know how that is. I have a 2-hour commute, so
yeah, it's bad.
It's not fun. I heard James talking about it last time. I was like, man, I hate that. I hate that for you because it sucks. It really does.
Yes.
But hey, I get paid gas mileage, so it's whatever.
Oh,
I don't
that's
have
nice.
that arrangement. I get like an eyebrow raise when I tell people how far I drive, but that's about all I get in exchange for my efforts. Okay, guys, so here we are. So when last we got together, the group had taken a detour away from the main road up into the Reikwald forest. They spent a bit of time kind of winding through these old disused paths, as you'll recall, and during their first night camping, whilst the halfling was making ferret stew, they encountered some strange and not native fauna, or flora, I should say, vines that creeped along the ground and were seemingly attracted to blood. This got you to thinking, like, where do these plants come from? Why are they here? You narrowly escaped being devoured thanks to Bartleby throwing one of your companions into the midst of these plants, which honestly was one of the most epic moments. But you did escape and carried on throughout the night, sort of heading generally due eastward, hoping to find a trail that would lead south out of the Reikwald. When we left off, you had responded to screams in the distance. Seemingly someone had hung themselves or was hanging from a tree. And of course, as you went to try to assist, you were attacked by a small pack of dogs. And your GM literally shat the bed when it came to combat rules. So you're welcome for that. But you persevered nonetheless. And at this moment, you are standing there at the base of this tree, which has been sliced in half by this barrier that seems to have come out of nowhere as you were sitting there with the rest of the caravan. The caravan is to the south, probably a good 100 yards to the south, in fact. Let me give you a map. You should be able to see this momentarily. Like right now. Wow, that's zoomed out.
Yep.
Yeah, let me zoom back. There we go. Oh, there we go. So basically, these dogs kind of attacked you coming out of nowhere. You now are standing at the base of this tree. You can smell the smell of wood smoke and hear the slight crackling of the flames that have erupted as this barrier came into existence. You can see where you are on the map. Hanging from the tree, still dangling and kicking his feet such that he's sort of swaying to and fro on this leaning branch some 30 feet up in the air above you, is a person who seems to have sustained some sort of nasty injury. As he hangs there, he's looking down, seemingly unable to speak. Arranged as you are on the map, reclaiming as much of the sense of urgency in the overwhelming aftermath of combat, what do you do?
Collect that blanket we brought out here to catch the guy,
Okay.
and then threw at the dogs.
Yes.
My bad.
Very comically to no effect that we threw at the dogs. Thank you.
That's true.
Gosh, that
Hey,
was
It separated them.
Hey, yeah, well, yeah, it did that. It very much did. I think Oswald. I forget. Did I bring rope with me? I feel like I did.
I believe you did have a length of rope. I think it was some 30 feet, and you did have the blanket as well that you'd intended to use as some sort of catching device.
So is that it's probably not going to be enough. That wouldn't be enough to belay myself off of a limb, would it?
No, not quite. You consider that, sort of looking up into the tree, and the thing that you notice that's the most concerning is that this barrier seems to have essentially sliced down into the trunk of this tree, and so it's peeled back like this, and the man is very much at risk of falling at this point, particularly since he doesn't seem to realize he should stay still. He's kicking his feet. You can barely make out the sound.
Well, could I try to make an engineering roll here to try to create some sort of like false falling system? So like maybe an old style, like have you ever seen the like I would say like inner city, like New York style, like firefighters who had to save people back in the day, like create like a sort of like sticks with like the rope interlaced in between the blanket, so we could like create like a trampoline or a cushion between like two sticks or limbs or whatever nearby.
Grimwald, you're there, and you see Oswald sort of pacing around as this man's kind of kicking his feet, and you have the blanket in hand. He stops and regards your blanket for a moment as if he's thinking about a possible solution involving it, but you're not sure. So you're going to make an engineering roll to think of some contraption if you'd like. Yeah, you can do that. Meanwhile,
if the tree's split, do we think it's sturdy enough, like sort of like a sapling, or is it like a dead tree that we could maybe bend over more so at least he's closer to the ground
you very
without
well might
hopefully
be able to do
slingshotting
that.
him?
You might be able to do that. It's a fairly sizable tree. At least it once was, but nonetheless, it's split far enough down that it's sort of just waggling back and forth. So Oswald, you think of a few designs that will work. They're going to take a few minutes, but and you're going to have to gather some supplies. But your wheels are really turning here. But it also occurs to you that there are 4 corners to this blanket, and there's more than 4 of you. And so while you figured out this sort of fancy, like, trapeze kind of thing that you could create, it also occurs to you that you could just stretch the blanket out. You think this through.
True, but would I think this would save him from more bodily harm if it were to fall apart, or if, like, we weren't able to catch him properly?
You're more worried about time. You can see a way clear to get him down. Almost it would be fun for him. But yeah, you're a little concerned with the time it would take to build the contraption that you come up with.
All right. Well, Oswald, he scratches the fronds of his mustache, stops at one, twirls it a little bit, and says, "I've arrived at a plan." And he just passes out to our most strong and capable, not to doubt the halfling. But I have something to prove here against that. And
oh, please, I'm a little too low to the ground to be holding up a blanket to catch somebody.
Perfect. You should be underneath it.
So you reach out.
No, that's not what I meant.
So Grimwald has in hand the blanket, so you kind of reach out and kind of pull one corner, and Grimwald, you hold another. Who takes the
Distribute
other
the blanket.
I'll take a corner.
Kicking his feet. No one's really said much.
I'll
to
stand
him
back and
just yet.
supervise.
Okay, so you're there. You stretch, kind of the blanket among you, and you're kind of nice and tight, leaning back with all of your weight and strength. And Halfling, you're kind of standing there, arms crossed, looking up at this guy kicking his feet. He's happily kicking his feet. What do you do? He seems to be a bit afraid, and again, he's not intelligible when he speaks. He's the tongue waggling out of the hole. If you'll recall, there was a clear situation going on. You can't see from this distance, but thank you for drawing the blanket. That's amazing. That's so good.
You're welcome.
Yes. So, what do you do, Halfling? So they're there and leaning, pull, talking among one another. What do you do?
Just jump down. They'll catch you.
Why don't you try to persuade this guy? Should give me a sort of maybe an intimidation roll, or actually leadership roll. Give me a leadership roll as you try to take charge.
Can I help out and try to encourage him?
Yeah, sure. What do you say to encourage him? What do you?
Like try to climb down. We'll catch you if you fall, or just jump.
Okay. So yeah, I'll let you make a fellowship test for me. This isn't the typical thing that you would do a collaborative
Average,
roll
difficult.
For. I'm going to say straight.
Okay. Was it fellowship?
Yeah.
Ooh, leadership came out very well.
Right, same.
So the two of you together, yeah, it absolutely did. So Corbin shouts, he kind of glances down, and you make eye contact with him, and he stays still for just a moment, as if he's thinking, kind of evaluating what you're saying to him. And then just as Grimwald kind of chimes in and says, we'll catch you, you can see that sort of moment where he trusts you, and he lets go of the branch. The branch snatches back upward, and he comes falling down. So who wants to make the strength test? Who's got the strongest grip?
35.
34.
Can this count actually as like an assisted action?
Yeah, it will, but I'm trying to figure out who has to make the roll, because the
It's
assisted
primary.
action, is the strongest
Okay.
one.
So this is going to be a raw strength test. Who actually has the highest? I have myself, I think 34. Yeah.
35.
33.
34.
35 it is.
wins.
Grimwald's beefcake. Let's make this roll, and so you're going to give yourself like plus 30. So you're going to be in good shape unless you do something horribly wrong.
Plus 30.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. No.
Shit.
And I use one of those fortune.
Fortune point. So for those who didn't watch my fantastic video, right, the fortune points will allow you to re-roll a test, or if you're right on the edge, you can actually use them to increase the success level if you're trying to go for a success level sort of play. So keep that in mind. And fortune points do restore themselves at the end of each session. Wow.
Well worth it.
So that could have gone so much worse, right? So you, Lady Luck smiles upon you as you feel your heels kind of slip in the dirt, but you stiffen your back and you actually bring him down safely with a dong. He does flop to the ground, of course, and rolling about, scampering up and staggering off to the side, sort of looking at you suspiciously, getting to the point where the four of you are kind of within his view. And of course, the halfling right there with it. He says. What do you do?
Man.
So he doesn't have. Does he have a jaw?
So, not exactly. So it seems like the right side of his jaw is just not there. And from your perspective, Geschwind, and kind of makes you a little bit nauseous to watch it. You can see his tongue and sort of waggling in there in his teeth. It looks like some catastrophic injury. In fact, the scar tissue goes up into his scalp and affects his hair growth as he's sort of standing there. The man himself is about 5'6" overall, pretty tall for humans of the time. Aside from the facial situation, he's extremely thin, like malnourished kind of thin. Not to the point where his belly is distended, but to the point where his ribs are clearly showing in his sort of tattered peasant garb. He's clearly a little worried about what's going on here, but his eyes darting back and forth between you, wondering perhaps if he can trust you. What do you do?
I kind of like put my hands up and kind of back away just to give him like space a little bit.
Okay.
Say, oh, we mean you no harm. We wouldn't have tried saving you if we just meant to kill you.
He puts his hand to the right of his face, covering the hole and allowing his tongue to sort of gain purchase against his hand, and says, "I'm Owen. Thank you. I thank you," he says, and he kind of bows down, stepping forward. "The dogs were going to kill me," he says. "You saved me. You all saved me."
It is quite all right, Oswald says, and he says, "Do you know what this is?" And he kind of points to the materialized wall before him.
Okay. He glances over in that direction and seems a little confused. He's been hanging from a tree since the barrier appeared, so he may not know it's there. You're kind of not close enough to tap on it, so he sort of looks over and looks back at you, and he says, Reikwald Forest," as you're pointing out into the trees as far as he's concerned.
I kind of reach down, grab some like stones, and just kind of like toss them at the wall.
You do. You turn around and with all your strength throw a couple of kind of mid-sized stones at the barrier, and they bounce. And for the first time, you see this very clear shimmer, as if you've sort of interrupted the stability of it for a moment. He looks, and his eyes get really wide. He looks back at you and seems a bit scared. Witchcraft! He points at it.
For the time, I think it is wise that you come back with us.
Good idea.
You're kind of there with your giant muscles, Grandma, and your messed up back. You're like,
oh God, just I've been there. Oh God, just.
Yes. So he looks among you and he nods seemingly, although keeping his distance. Right, he's not trusting to the point where he necessarily wants to be robbed of his infinitesimal coin purse, but he does in fact head back. So do you move back south to the original caravan situation?
Oswald will take a look at these mangy, almost disease-ridden looked dogs one last time, but that's a sort of like passing glance as he makes his way back. I assume that's where we're going.
It is. So give me. Let's do perception as you approach these mangy dogs. Being from the city, you don't see too many sort of wild dogs. Bartleby, what are you doing meanwhile? Ooh.
Whew. Nice.
The good news is you don't have to make an oops roll. You accidentally slip on the dog. I don't know. So you, the one thing that overwhelms you as you approach Oswald, you're kind of leaning down. And this dog is here. It's kind of matted fur. It's just this smell of infection. It's not natural. And you notice that it's got a couple of wounds on it that you don't remember having made, or your group having made. Not that you had a combat camera, but it's a slash along the side of it. And actually, it just stinks. That's about what you get out of your fumbling failure is, man, this thing stinks. Bartleby, what are you doing?
Bartleby is just getting the blanket back into a roll-up and sort of not paying super close attention to what's going on with this guy. Yeah.
Okay. You
He's
look
kind
over
of
your
just
shoulder.
like averting his eyes from this guy's gaping hole in the side of his head. Clearly a little uncomfortable.
Fair enough. It's probably somewhat uncomfortable for him as well, particularly eating soup. Corbin, what are you doing?
I'm pretty fascinated by this guy with this hole in the side of his head and trying to figure out how he does eat things other than soup. So I'm staring.
Fair enough. So you're there kind of staring up at him because even at kind of mid-height, he's a bit taller than you. And since you're so food-focused, you can just picture porridge coming out and, sauce bangers and mash just squishing out of the side. It's really revolting, you think. But poor guy. It's clearly not something he was born with. It's clearly an injury of some sort. So that's generally not the topic that you bring up when you first meet someone, so you keep it to yourself at the moment. So Oswald,
he must waste a lot of beer.
Nice. So you're there with this corpse of this sort of stinking animal. You can hear the sound actually of Unter sort of barking out orders to the south there. You can only imagine the chaos that's going on there. What does the group do?
Maybe we should explore along the edge of this wall barrier thing. I don't think I want to go back that way yet.
Oswald looks at you and nods slowly. Yes, it does seem to be very chaotic.
I chime in and suggest, and I kind of look and I say, Owen, was it? Perhaps we should take him back, and he clearly needs something to eat.
He literally stands taller for a moment, like he was kind of stooped over and sort of just his hunchback, and his ears perk up as you say eat. Clearly he's interested in that.
I was gonna say, otherwise I do have some rations and I can dig one out if we want to continue along the wall. Hand him one.
Well, I can take him back. Get him something to eat and come back here.
Okay, I'll go with you then, and we can kind of take him back and then quickly leave Winter.
He's standing between the two of you as you're discussing this, and he's looking back and forth like, yes, every time you say eat or food or whatever, he's like, yeah, looking back and forth.
Come on, Owen, let's go.
Bart will be able to take the blanket back with them as well.
Okay.
What better guide than a happy local?
Yes. So Oswald and Corbin, the drinking buddies, you're now, the rest of your companions heading back toward the caravan to sort of help Owen and also see what's going on. This leaves you here along this barrier. The flames at this point have all but died down. There's just a sort of slight flicker of flame here and there, a little bit of smoke and sparks. What do you do?
Just due to Oswald's quizzical nature, he's going to look over at his drinking friend, and I guess I want to inspect a little bit more. Does it seem to go on for as far as I can see, even in this far up?
Give me a perception roll. Let's see what you see right here in this.
Well,
area.
if it's anything like the previous one, we'll yep.
Damn.
Oswald is the best.
Poor Oswald. Your eyes literally fall out of your head. Is that a thing? No. So you're looking.
I mean, if I keep rolling like this.
So, standing where you are, looking kind of into the trees, this barrier has clearly carved its way through the forest as far as you can see. Right where you are, again, there's a bit of smoke left over from where this sort of flames erupted, which, having been there when the barrier appeared in the first place, you would have seen that, right? You would have seen that sort of flash that tore through the wagon. That really draws your attention more than anything, since this kind of magic, folk magic is one thing, it's a sort of revered, witchcraft is feared, but this is straight up sorcery, elfin type magic, like heavy, hardcore magic. So, kind of distracts you. Corbin, what do you guys do? You're there together. The rest of the team is sort of headed off to the south. You just start walking to the north.
I kind of don't want to wander too far to the north just yet, but I try feeling along the wall, try digging at the base of it. Does it extend underground? What's going on with that?
Okay, cool. So you drop down on your knees and you kind of start digging around. And Oswald, you're there sort of looking over his shoulder. And right at first, as you dig, your fingers go under, but only for a fleeting second. As you pull the dirt back, it's almost like water being poured into the space behind as you evacuate the dirt. It fills in the empty space. And again, solid.
Okay.
You dig. You get about 6-7 inches down before it occurs to you that this could go on for a while.
But if it has to fill in the space, I wonder if we could dig under it, like a tunnel.
Me.
It's an idea.
Could we play with the aspect of that? Like, if we put soil underneath the bit that's filling it in, and then dig a little hole the other side, just like shear his finger off.
You want to give? Do you want to give it?
Let's use a stick to test that.
Says as Oswald's saying, "Hey, just put your finger in there." You start kind of digging around. You put the stick in there, and surely, as soon as there's a vacant space in that that plane, snaps right through the stick. You shove it in there, straight through the stick. Oswald kind of, you have to kind of giggle, thinking that it could have been his finger if he would have listened.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a continuous connection to the wall. It just appears there.
Seems so. Maybe if you dug fast enough, you think.
No.
So
I'm not sure I'm willing to risk that.
So let's pause here for a second. So the camera pans, and the remainder of you arrive at the edge of the caravan here, where all of the chaos erupted in the first place. Coming down from the north, of course, the guards are there. You walk up on Unter, basically, get the swords out, get the other's weapons, there's something going on. Oh, hello, he says. He looks up with his giant girth, standing on his platform with his flea-ridden rug beneath him, barking out orders. What was going on up there? He says.
Kind of chime in. There was this gentleman being harassed by some sort of mangy mongrels, and it appears this wall or whatever it is continues on for as far as we can see.
But you don't say. How? So just keeps going. We got to dig a hole under it. Is what we got to do, I think.
I
haven't tried that.
Not doing that.
He pauses for a moment.
Oswald and Patriot.
Oswald is way up by the hanging guy. These guys are far away, so you guys are kind of on pause.
Okay,
Don't
yeah.
forget. Sorry.
I was kind of nod and say we haven't tried that yet.
Yeah. It's like he realizes something suddenly. He goes, what about the halfling and the boy? Are they dead? Oh, they've died. He says.
No, they're fine. They're still checking out the wall and what remains of those animals.
His lip literally trembling, as if, this guy seems to have a heart, right? He was suddenly just stricken by grief.
Okay. He has a heart. Probably a very, very weak one. But
I was always thinking it might be possible for the halfling to whip up something to eat, he says.
And there's his heart.
Bartleby,
I'm sure he'll be back soon. I just kind of try to continue on towards the food, at least to get something for Owen there, trying not to engage in conversation with Gunter.
Well, he as you're kind of walking along, he's, Gashwin, stop. We don't feed the homeless people, he says. Owen kind of turns and looks. I got a Feldweg. He points off into the kind of distance, sort of up to the north and west. Feldweg, he says.
I say, don't worry, he could be a useful guide to help get us out of here. I'm sure he's familiar with these parts, and unfortunately now we do have less mouths to feed.
He's nodding and, kind of smiling as you're saying that and pointing to you like, yeah, what he said. Unter is there. I said we don't feed the homeless people. I don't know who this is. Maybe he brought the mongrels. We can't trust just anyone. We've got to get moving. Give me why don't you give me a leadership roll? See if you can. Yeah, see if you can convince him to.
Any modifier on that?
Yeah, I want to say it's a little difficult here. Mine is 10.
Oh damn. I would have failed anyways. Damn.
We don't know how long we're going to be stuck here, and food is our most important resource, he says, kind of slobbering as he talks. Don't feed the locals. Maybe the locals could feed us, he says. And for a moment, Owen looks up at him like, did he just suggest he's going to eat me? And then he seems to realize, like, oh, he just means go to... Yeah. He seems...
Food.
No, we will not give away our food.
I say, all right, have your way. And I kind of take him back towards like somewhere behind a cart where he can at least sit down and rest. And then I slip him a ration.
That's a good lad then.
Yeah.
That's a good lad. You walk off to the side. Unter's talking to Ewan at this point, one of the guards. What are you, Bartleby, what are you and Griswold doing? Grimwald. This says Griswold, bro. Dude, there's a typo in our overlay. I'm so sorry. What are Bartleby and Grimwald doing?
Just getting that guy situated, and was going to sneak him some food if he didn't get any.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can move off to the side. So why don't you give me a stealth roll, and let's see. Ewan and Hugo are both nearby, near the food cart.
Average, difficult.
Average is fine. Oh, so you basically go on other sides of the wagon. So Grimwald, you're used to kind of skulking around, right? So you see Bartleby walk up to the food cart, just very kind of nonchalant, reaching and opening the side doors there to the wagon. You sneak around the back and completely avoid the notice of everyone. Meanwhile,
leverage my beneath notice if I can. The beneath notice talent.
What do you grab? Just out of curiosity, what are you feeding the locals?
Whatever is like, if we have jerky or an apple or something that's just ready to go.
So you the thing that's most immediately in reach is the last of the halfling's blueberry muffins that are coveted by Unter. But it's a good sized muffin, man. And you think
he gets the muffin.
So you slip the muffin into, kind of under your tunic and sort of walk off nonchalantly, sort of, again, favoring your back and using that sort of trick back to hunch over a little more. Meanwhile, Bartleby is sort of reaching in. He's reaching for this kind of moderate crust of bread when you feel a hand on your shoulder. And it's Hugo. He speaks up. The master said not to feed the locals. What are you doing? We will starve if you give away our food, he says.
Who said anything about giving? And Bartleby will take the crust of bread and take a bite of it. Did the master say not to eat? I don't think so.
Yes, that's so good. No rolls needed. As you say that, sort of little crumbs kind of fly out as you're talking. Who said anything about? And he kind of, sorry. And he turns and walks away. You walk away with a crust of bread. And so
good
you
misdirection.
Well played.
So scene fades, and we find now Corbin and Oswald still there. Corbin, you've just sort of dug your hole and had your initial experiment results. What are you doing now?
Well, we can't go under it. How high do you think it goes? Could we go over it?
Let's give me a perception roll.
This was partially answered by my last session by Oswald doing some smoke testing, I believe. Mm-hmm. But
that's true. So, Corbin,
got a green.
You look up, and here in the forest, obviously, there's sort of all kinds of pollen and various things, but you're looking again at the remnants of the smoke, and the same thing that Oswald saw in the last episode. The smoke sort of, drifts up as you would expect it to, and then just sort of seems to taper up a very slight angle. Seems like it goes up quite a ways. You can see literally the trail of smoke going up, and with that level of success, it actually seems to curve backward. You do.
Does it look to you like this might have a ceiling?
Oswald, you're staring up and you see it goes up quite a ways. But yeah, it seems to drift backward.
Yeah, Oswald shakes his head in agreement, and then he says, it matches what I saw last time. When the initial wall went up, the smoke was seeming to curve upwards.
Well, if we can't go over and we can't go under, then the only thing we can do is go around.
Yes, but which way is around?
I have no idea.
You look to the left and look to the right, and you can see literally from the angle that you're at, actually, with your face, we're pretty much right there by the barrier. You can see literally the still kind of smoldering trees that were split open, and you're kind of looking down a straight line that cuts through the forest like a hot knife through butter.
We have to pick a direction and follow it for a ways.
Would I be able to, if I were to make my way to like a map of the local area, would there be any way that I could like go back to kind of try to figure out where we are, if we have one?
Metal dice on a glass desk, bad idea. Yeah, so you know that back in your various things, of course, there are a couple of maps. You have one that's a bit older, and Unter has one, of course, that the sort of he uses as a tradesman. So yeah, you should be able to take a look at that and maybe guess. You're gonna have to do some navigation, but it comes to mind that you have the resources.
Maybe it is best we go back and try to cut our way through these woods with various maps for the area. I'm from Obersriek, but we're not near it, unfortunately.
Well, let's go back to the caravan then.
I do believe that would be the best course.
So you walk back. As you're walking along, of course, you kind of walk through past the corpse of the dog, thinking about that sort of situation, thinking about that smell, that very still faint smell that even standing here you can smell. That there's some rotten infection going on with that corpse. It's a little concerning. You walk to the south, though, and just in time to kind of arrive where Bartleby's sort of standing off by a tree, eating a crust of bread, with a kind of a shit-eating grin on his face as he walks up, as the two of you walk up and join him. So he's the first person you see, and of course the caravan is laid out there. You're not sure exactly where Grimwald and Geschwind are. So let's pause there. Grimwald and Geschwind, you're there with Owen, or as he calls himself, and he is literally grossing you the hell out. Eating this muffin. He's doing his best, and you feel for him, but this injury is so horrific, and he's just sort of eating and food falling out of the side. It's just this horrible saliva situation going on. What are you doing? Are you just watching him in disgust, or are you trying to chat with him while he eats?
Not with him. I was gonna talk about the dogs and the wall and stuff with Geschwin. Like, have you seen any of this before?
This is all new to me, and I keep trying not to look at it, almost like a car accident. This is all new, and I'm trying to also figure out I don't know what would be done with implements of those days. I guess in the medieval of I was thinking gauze and tape, but obviously there's no tape, so I don't
take
know
30
how
feet
to
of
solve
Oswald's
this.
rope and wrap it around his head. Yeah, he's got his hand over his mouth, and he's doing it right. He's okay, and the look on his face doesn't say he's suffering. I mean, he's taking care of it.
To terms with it.
That's because he's got that blueberry muffin.
He's destroying the muffin quickly, which is probably good.
Yes,
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, the muffin.
Make sure we pick up any crumbs that may or may not fall out of his mouth.
We're gonna go ahead and give Unter a perception check as he stands on his platform, barking out orders to the very front of the caravan. He's asking them to dig a hole. You hear, and he's oblivious.
Since if I know it's like his prized muffins, I'll try and keep myself between Owen and him.
Okay. So you stand there with your back, and you're kind of talking to Geschwind over your shoulder, right, as you block the view of Unter. And he looks back and nods at you because, again, you were complacent. You were good servants. So back again, Bartleby, Oswald, and Corbin, you have sort of gathered here by this tree. Bartleby, you're just finishing your crust of bread, and man, was it ever satisfying.
I kind of looked to the others and just asked, what do we do from here?
I think we're originally set out to see how big this wall was and then got distracted by Owen.
True. If he's still eating, I'll kind of let him finish, and just kind of look and say, are you from around here? Is there some place we could go?
Feldweg. Yeah. He points back, sort of up, back where the dog encounter happened, and is kind of off to the west as well. And he points and nods his head as you say, kind of, are you from around here? Is there somewhere we can go?
How far?
5 miles. 5 miles.
Five miles.
Yeah.
He nods.
Trying to be a little polite, I kind of look to you guys, and while he hopefully resumes his muffin, is like, what did he say? It's 5 miles away?
I think he said the town that he's from.
Oh, okay. I turn back.
He seems to, you notice as you look back, his eyes are kind of up on you, right? He snaps back down to the ground, finishing the last bite of his muffin. Obviously this has done a lot to gain his confidence, and he sort of stands and straightens his tunic, which is completely just filthy and really kind of threadbare at this point. Safe, he says. Home. He points to all of you. Welcome. You could come. Small, but enough room. And a little bit of kind of little muffin residue flies out.
Would all of us be able to come? The caravan?
Wagon's hard. But yes, he says, his tongue waggling.
Okay.
Is it on this side of the wall or the other side?
I don't think we know that yet.
Yeah, he kind of is looking around. He points away from the side of the wall that you've been digging on, for sure.
Okay.
Did you find anything else out about the wall?
Well, we can't go over it. It curves back towards us. We can't go under it because it fills in when we tried to dig.
Might want to tell these idiots
Our only hope
stop
is to
digging.
go back or go around.
I yell up to the front, you can stop digging.
So you sort of shout that. Bartleby, what were you trying to say? The internet cut us off there a little.
Oh, might want to tell those idiots to stop digging.
Oh, and right then he's stop digging. That's delegation for you. You didn't even need the leadership role. So you hear, "Who gave the orders here?" Unter shouts, "Keep digging, dig a hole. Dig until night time if you have to. We're going through it," he says. They shout something back, and he's sort of, "It keeps filling in, sire. Do you want us to just keep digging?" "That's what I said. Dig." They kind of look at each other and shake their heads and dig some more. You're kind of yelling. Unter's in the middle. You're at the back of the caravan, and they're at the front. It's like this sort of.
If they're not careful, they're going to lose a hand or a foot.
I looked at Corbin and just kind of almost imploringly am like, can you reason with him? Tell him there's food or something the other way, but we can't just stay here.
I can try.
You head over to.
So I'll go approach the enormity of our employer.
That's fantastic. You go walking up, and you're kind of behind him as he's got his hands on his enormous hips, and he's watching the digging.
Hey,
process.
boss.
Oh, hello, Corbin. I was worried about you. I thought you was dead. They said dogs ate you,
He says.
Well, I mean, I thought they said dogs ate you.
No dogs ate me, but we already tried digging and we couldn't dig, and even if we dug way under the wall, it's still filled in. So I don't think that's going to work. But Owen here, the guy we rescued, says that his village is over that way. So maybe we should go there. We can get something to eat.
Oh, give me a charm roll. Give yourself +10 because you thought to throw food in there.
Plus what?
+10. Just your basic
Okay.
+10.
This guy's got a
the-
single track mind. I like it.
The internet cut out a little bit. Oh, I am not so charming.
Well, bud, listen. I've heard rumors about the terrible gut rot that you can get from eating this rabble's food. Why would I go there when I've got you? Because you could turn a turd into a steak.
But if I can turn a turd into a steak, imagine what I can turn gut rot into.
I said no.
No, just a thought.
I mean,
He's looking
But we're
around.
surely not going this way.
but the rest of the caravan's going that way, Corbin. We're losing. We've got the cargo in here. You don't understand. I got to get to Uber's Reich. I gotta.
But we can't do it on this road. We have to find another way.
Well then,
This road's blocked.
we'll just follow the invisible magic wall. Whichever way, we'll go around it. That's what we'll do. We'll go around it.
There is no wagon trail, by the way, around said wall. There's no road. And
Right.
Wagons kind of, yeah.
But Owen thinks he could get the wagon safely to the village, so at least there must be a path he knows
You're
that would get us
listening-
closer
Are
to
you
the north.
listening to a local that you had to rescue from mongrels?
Yes, because he might know the land. Who better to find us a way through the forest and maybe get us around this wall?
Gaswind is good. He travels all the right land. We don't need to listen to a local or a villager. He's probably not been more than a mile from his house. He was probably just going out to take a shit and got stuck in a tree.
Oh, well, then let's get Geshwin's opinion.
Let's. You go get him. And meanwhile, would
Go
you,
f-
would you mind bringing me back that last muffin, please?
He says.
Sure. I go find Geshwin.
Okay, you do.
He
comes back head
That's
hung.
literally what I just said.
Head hung, the halfling walks back to you guys, and then Geshwin, you're kind of there, and he approaches, and then Unter has turned and is watching expectantly with his hands on his hips.
So he won't listen to me, but he'll listen to you. So you should tell him.
I tried telling him once, but we'll give it another shot.
Good luck.
Thanks. I kind of hang my head and walk.
Do you go by
Towards
yourself? Do the
Gunter.
two of you walk back together? You're going to gradually get more and more.
I think by myself.
Okay. So you,
Well,
you go,
unless anybody wants to follow.
so the
I'll
the-
go along just to see.
I'll follow, but I got to go look for the muffin first.
Oh shit! You don't know that. You're right. Thank you for not metagaming. I appreciate that. So you head back to the wagon where you keep your baked goods, and so you're going to do that, and then Geshwin and Grimwald head over to the Unter wagon. Bartleby and Oswald, are you standing there, sort of arms crossed, watching this? What are you doing?
Bartleby is happy to stand there with his arms crossed watching this unfold. After hearing his boss refuse to feed someone who is obviously in need.
Yes. I mean, Unter's got to eat too, buddy. What are you doing, Oswald?
Oswald has he's been kind of like walking around the base of the tree, like on like sort of like 180 semicircles, tapping his forehead, thinking, and then he's like, ah, yes, and he goes to look at whereas in his I would say like the wagon that he spends most of his time in, he's looking for like his drawing quarters or his engineer's work, or somewhere where he can lay down something, and he tries to rummage through the supplies to find the map, the so-called locations and stuff like that, so he could like correlate and like possibly draw a line like where this wall is and look at where it is on the map, where it comes from.
Okay.
Like,
so you go, and the first thing obviously is the one of the maps, and I'm going to let you roll a d10. The new one or the old one was at the very front where it would make sense to have a map, and that's on the other side of the wall. The other one you have access to.
Wrong chat.
Nice. Hi viewers, Rivers says.
Hi viewers. Yeah, no, Rivers is dumb. So that's going to be
good. So you go to the ass end of the wagon there on the map that basically is, sort of still on fire, kind of smoldering at this point. There's a corpse off to the side, as you recall. And the map case, thankfully, the gods are smiling upon you. Sigmar, be praised. You have, in fact, this leather tube, and inside is a slightly older map. Not so old that it, isn't the Reikwald and so on, but it's just older, crinkly. You unroll it, getting away from the fire, of course. And what are you going to attempt to discern? Let's do navigation. So you're going to try to sort out whereabout on the map this wall is, right?
Yeah, so I'm looking for to correlate how long we've been on a journey from the last stop that we've made to about the average, what I would think average travel time is, to about where this wall might lie, and to see if it intersects any major towns, north or south, or wherever it runs from, or east or west. It doesn't really matter. Where it actually ends up. If I could try to discern in his own mind, he's trying to figure out does this come from a major city, or it just so happened that we ran across this very fortunate that it didn't hurt anyone particularly. That was important,
except for the dead guy you're standing.
Except for the dead guys.
Except for the dead guys. But see.
Apparently, they're not important.
Yeah.
See if it interlies with any known landmarks that it would be intersecting this. If you get what I'm saying.
I get it. So give me a navigation roll, and that's going to be kind of difficult. So do -10 on that one.
No.
Unfortunately, there's not a skill for SAT level word problem. But so what I will give you is that you have a general idea that you're just south of the Hager Cribs, which you all know are this sort of ghost-infested hills. It's an ancient burial ground of Sigmar's, sort of distant relatives.
We're just south of that?
You are just south of that, in fact, yeah. But
so we don't want to go north.
Correct. So I know Oswald's a worldly guy, so I'm not going to give you the specific location, but what I can show you, you guys can see the map now, right?
Yep.
Did I just brought up? Okay. So
yes.
You're somewhere in between sort of Bogenhaven, obviously, and Ubersreich, probably about midway. That you were fair enough, kind of when you went north to avoid that greenskin war party. And about a day's travel to the east. That basically puts, if you went with a north-south line, which is more or less what you're standing next to, that doesn't make sense. I mean, Castle Drachenfeld's down there, but it does occur to you that could be the source, and that's bad if so. But yeah, it doesn't line up with a major city. It doesn't line up with any body of water. It just doesn't make sense. Now, it's hard to say as well what the distance that it covers is. I mean, it could be 100 yards, and at the moment you wouldn't know. What do you do?
I think for now Oswald's just gonna maybe keep this information to himself.
Okay, so you've got the map kind of there, and you sort of roll it up and put it back in its case to keep it safe. For the rest, so Corbin, the back of the wagon, You appear to be frozen. Can you move your head? Okay, you're there. Good. I'm sorry. You're just so still and so focused.
I was looking at the map.
Got it. So you approach the back of the wagon there. You kind of open the doors and you look, and literally your heart sinks. The blueberry muffin that you're expecting to find there is gone. What do you do?
Well, I'm not terribly brokenhearted about it because I'm not going to get to eat it anyway.
That's true.
So is there anything else that might satisfy the most rotund leader of our expedition?
Well, you have your moodish tube cake that you made. You've been carrying it with you, and you were intending to eat it later. But that's pretty much it. That's,
Anything other than that?
No, just the tube cake. There's bread, and there's various supplies. Kind of pickled fish. Which is one of your favorites, of course. Some dried meats and things, but Unter hates those because they give him the wind, as he says. Yeah.
Then we don't want that. Well, I'll have to go to him empty-handed then.
Okay. You return. The rest of you see the halfling kind of walk back around from the wagon. And of course, Oswald, you're about this time, you're kind of looking at the map, right? You approach and Unter's there watching, hands on hips. And Geschwin, I think we're going over to chat with him actually. So let's resolve that because you're kind of digging around the wagon there, Corbin. What do you say?
I approach and already regretting for the probably 10th time of taking this assignment. Just say, "Sir, you asked for me."
Yeah. So it occurred to me. I've got the plan. I don't understand how you've not thought of it already, but you're a messenger. You know this. You know these lands. Take us around it. Take us to the north or the south or the whatever direction, as long as it's not through the fucking wall, and get us around it.
He says, and he smiles with his food cake teeth, of course.
I appreciate you knowing how skilled of a messenger I am. Unfortunately, my trade tends to have me stay on roads. So I kind of look towards the front of the caravan and say, "We can't go that way."
He watches.
I
He
look
follows
back to the
your
road.
hand.
We could go that way, but we know there's death plants and a greenskin war party potentially behind us. So I would suggest we follow the local who, even if he doesn't know the surrounding area, he knows this area and can at least get us off this trail, because my worry is we are up against a wall, literally, and there could be a bunch of evil greenskins coming to murder us and take our food.
You have just earned you have just earned yourself a plus 20 bonus to your charm roll.
Nice.
Yeah. Go ahead and
I'm going to use a fortune.
Okay, you use a fortune. That's fine.
So I get to re-roll, correct?
You do. You get to reroll.
Okay.
Just like fortune. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
And so
Oh,
food for thought, just a quick rules thing. If you spend a fortune point and that doesn't work out for you, then you can actually take on a corruption point to achieve certain ends, just to give you that out there. You don't necessarily want to do that because you could grow a tentacle out of your ass, but just food for thought. The rules do support it. Anyway,
Cool.
So you say that, and after this sort of dissertation and him following your gestures,
I don't know why I didn't think of that. You're right.
You've got a lot on your mind, I'm sure.
You don't even know the half of it, Geschwin. We're all in grave danger. Grave danger.
I kind of pause. More so than what I described?
What? We can talk later. Let's just get off. Let's follow the local. All right.
I think that's a great idea.
he speaks up, talking over you as you're starting to say that's a great idea.
Everyone, listen up. I've had an idea.
He says, and he proceeds to explain
exactly what you just said. If we go this way, there's death plants and greenskins.
And he's just given this fantastic leadership with his bulging girth. Everyone sort of stands there downtrodden and fully tired of hearing him talk. And they sort of nod. And you can hear this, and so, of course, Grimwald, you're there kind of witnessing. Corbin, you're walking up about this time empty-handed, and, kind of Owen there toward the back. What do you...
If he's busy pontificating to the rest of the group, I think I'm going to slip out of eyesight so that he'll forget about the muffin.
Roll that stealth.
Nice.
No modifier, just roll it.
Clever.
Yeah. Says he. So, what's
nice.
SL2? So we're going to oppose that with Unter's watchful eye. Although he rolls a 97, so he's pontificating in the most...
Too busy pontificating.
Yeah, you slip literally just kind of between wagon wheels and kind of down beneath the axle and out of sight. Come out right there by Bartleby and Owen. Oswald at this point is coming back with the map rolled up under his arm. And you all sort of reconvene around Owen, who is there drinking water and eating kind of the rest of this dried ration that he had in his hand when he was distracted by the giant muffin. He looks up.
I take you to Feldweg,
He says. Still Geshwan? Didn't get it. You don't know what the hell he's saying. You're pretty sure
I'll
it's a
take it.
noun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a noun. So, what else? You guys allow him to kind of lead you? How do you do that? You've left the front end of your caravan now, has headed off to the east. The one wagon is obviously in a state of disrepair as seen on the map. There may be a few things in that wagon of interest. You're not sure.
No.
Is there any way that I could try to repair it? Because I technically have the tinker rule or talent.
It's sort
Cut
of
in half.
sliced in half. So you
Yeah,
could,
it's cut in half.
Well, I say
could get
repair, but could I
parts.
take like a spare axle and then create like a makeshift another axle to salvage whatever we can, or make a sled out of it, or like a hand wagon almost? like-
you could. It's still sort of sooty and whatnot. But give me an engineering roll. Let's see what that brilliant mind of yours comes up with. Suddenly you're flying through space on the spaceship that Oswald builds.
Yeah. Oh yes, definitely.
Damn it.
No.
So you walk up and literally, I mean, it's not that you're a failure per se. You walk up and you look at it and you just sort of know there's no freaking way. This thing is still smoldering. It's cut in half, but kind of at an angle. One of the wheels is cockeyed. Now, what you do think is you could harvest some parts off of it, and the freebie here is there's some stuff inside of it still on the rear end of it. Yeah.
No, I like to think in my mind he just goes up to like go take a wheel and it just falls off and it crumbles into dust.
There you
It's just there was that. And no, I guess we can see what's inside of it to try and see if we can put it on some other wagon or.
Yeah, I think we try to consolidate as much as we can in the workable wagon and kind of slowly start shifting the caravan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might get drunk, I'll be right back.
Salvage what we can.
Yeah, sure. No worries. Anybody need to take a quick bio break while John's stepping away? Anyone? Going once? Going twice? As Eric drinks more water, he's like, "No, I defy
That's my
nature."
break.
Cool. So you start to
Unfortunately, I live in Florida and now I'm in a desert, so I'm drinking a lot of water.
Hey, Eric, it appears if you're in a hotel room, and kind of a nice one at that, you're not in the desert.
No, outside it's a desert. And the air in the hotel room is not magically more humid.
Ugh, nice. Well, at least you're in Nevada. You should stop over at Vegas and play some games. So while he steps
It's like
away,
7 hours away. So now I think. And they have games here too.
not like Vegas.
They're just not as good.
So you sort of rearrange the wagon so you could just sort of twist the map and you basically wind up with the same thing. You have at this point consolidated the stuff that's salvageable from the wrecked wagon at the front there. There are 3 swords. 2 of them are, well, one of them is from the corpse, and 2 of them seem to have been packed for sort of defense as needed. There's a half a bow. It was cut in half, so that's unfortunate. That would have been usable. But there are a couple of flasks of lantern oil, a bit more rope, and a few torches as well. General sort of kit. You kind of rearrange the caravan. Who takes the swords? Does anyone hang on to the
Bartleby
sword?
would reach for one.
Okay, Bartleby.
What
grabs
about
the
parts
sword.
off the wagon? Like, is the top of the wagon, the tarp, whatever was covering it, is there enough of it left to be salvageable?
Yeah, you look at the actual cloth, the cover for the wagon, and yeah, it is. It's still again sort of sooty and torn and whatnot, but there's a good bit of it left. Probably a say 4 foot by 6 foot strip of this very thick cloth.
Yeah, if there's anything usable off of it that we can recover easily, we probably ought to take it.
Okay, so you strip the wagon down, not to belabor that, kind of pile it all onto the beer wagon, which you have plenty of beer. This gives you much joy. And you start kind of heading back up to the north along the trail that went toward the place where our good Owen was dangling. How do you ride? Are you just walking alongside? Are you riding on wagons? How do you go about doing that?
Well, I'm going to drive the beer wagon like I was before.
Okay, stay close to the beer. Anybody walk point?
Yes.
Oswald will walk. He's more interested in observing this wall than he is being in the comfort of sitting down while he's in the back of the wagon or whatever. Also, to whomever takes those blades, we should divvy that out before we get too much further ahead.
Yep. So Bartleby grabbed one. No one else spoke up. So there are what I say there were 3. There's 2 left.
They might be kind of largish for me.
Yes, they are in fact.
Sorry, there were 2 swords?
So they're actually rapier style swords.
Rapiers.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll take one.
Fencing, I guess, was the talent that goes with that.
Yes.
Oswald's just going to take a torch and take the actual weaponry off the top of it and just use it as a stick that he hits people with if he gets a chance.
Okay.
Like,
Just in case someone gets hurt, you can bash them in the head with it.
oh yeah. Or softly tap them in the back of their head.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So moving sort of off again, heading more kind of west and circling back up north, you find yourselves again passing the corpse of the dog that's lying there. Let's say Geschwind and Grimwald. I keep looking up at your name tag. I'm sorry. I'll fix it. Grimwald, give me perception rolls. And Oswald, you as well for a different reason.
While they're doing that, since I'm driving the beer wagon, if I can, I'm going to take an opportunity to enjoy the beer wagon.
Average, difficult. What is it?
Straight. Corbin, to what extent, I know the answer to this, so I'm going to have you do a consume alcohol roll for me, please, at normal difficulty. It's beer you're familiar with. But you get a little tipsy. You do get a little tipsy. So in order, Oswald, you mentioned that you were really interested in paying attention to this sort of wall. The one thing that occurs to you as you're kind of riding along, you're walking along, looking up, of course, trying to avoid, low-hanging branches and such. It's definitely not a straight up and down wall, as you literally watch a bird slam into it, kind of at a height of a good, 70, 80 feet, and sort of skids off of it and is sort of, flapping around there for a moment and stands there and then flutters off in the opposite direction. It's almost like it's a dome, like it curves. Leaves and things.
Oh, wow. So Oswald kind of stops and lets people pass him and he observes this.
Okay.
And he looks back to like the way they had come from.
Hmm.
Does it seem like, just because of the multiple times I've seen it, I think Oswald has a sort of like a light bulb moment. And he says, we need to go the other direction. And he looks around a little bit and like, I'm going to keep an eye out for more birds or more interactions like that.
Okay.
Or like, and if I get a chance to, I'll light another fire or I'll like go to the middle, because I'm starting to think that Oswald thinks that to go forward, we have to go back to see what's causing this dome almost.
Well, so it seems so that with the SL2, so you're thinking about it and you're kind of triangulating in your head and you're moving away, sort of further in, because the bird again sort of kind of was flying almost the same direction you're going when it hit the dome and kind of flapped around like, owl, what the hell was that? And then flew away. So it's almost as if it encountered it, and you're definitely obviously beneath it and moving sort of more central to it. You're not sure if that's troubling or not, but you're definitely moving toward the middle.
So I think I'm going to, if there's any of my compatriots nearby, let's see who I'm bonded to and think about this for a second. Who would he speak to first? I think because of the relationship I have with Bartleby, I'll, if Bartleby, are you like walking along the car, along next to the caravan, or are you like in an actual cart?
Bartleby's walking alongside the caravan.
So Oswald will, after he had stopped, and you probably saw him just stand still and observe something that you probably didn't get to see. He like catches back up to you like with a quickened pace, and he has like a somewhat worried look, but it's more of like his his thinking look. That would be normal for you to understand, just due to like how we, I use you to help me build things sometimes. And he looks to you and says, I think we are going to where the problem is, or whatever is creating this. It is not just a straight wall. It seems to be a sphere, a circle.
And it's over us, so it's keeping us in?
Yes, I do believe so. It seems to be centralized. And he starts to like pantomime like a circle, and then like us heading towards like maybe on the outside, like doing something like we're heading in to the circle. It seems that way, but I would not know unless I had more time to observe it.
Bartleby, give me a perception roll as well, and with this sort of explicit explanation, we'll make that easy, which is plus 40. Significantly easier when someone's really calling it to your attention.
This is where he just rolls a flat 100 and it's like, no, ain't seen it.
Pretty much.
No.
So you get it. You totally understand. I mean, you can't not understand a dome, and he references something like a cake dish or whatever. You drew it out pretty clearly. But you're kind of just looking up, and the concept of some sort of ensorcelment that could hold you in, it's lost on you. You don't understand what the hell's going on, and nor do you understand why going toward the middle would be going to where the problem is. You just don't get it. Magic sucks, you think.
True enough, words have never been spoken.
So should we be looking out for a witch or something?
You would have as much idea as I am afraid. But whatever it is, it must be centrally located. If it's a dome, I mean, all buildings have columns, and the strongest ones are in the center.
That makes sense. That makes an incredible amount of sense, Bartleby thinks. What do you guys do?
Bartleby knows math, so he gets it.
There you go. You continue.
Yeah, and Oswald just perplexedly, he's thinking and twirling his mustache.
Okay.
Yeah. Bartleby looks up, trying to see the dome, which is invisible, and sort of gets a suspicious look on his face.
But as you're looking up Bartleby, you notice that there's a weird haze in some places as the wind blows the leaves, sort of dry, dead leaves off the trees, and they sort of skate across the top of this dome. It's really kind of strange. It's almost like ants walking along it a bit. As you continue on to the west, and then again turning to the north, and some time passes, the trails are really rough. These are not roads. The wagons themselves are bouncing and hopping, and the oxen have a very difficult time doing their job. The horses, maybe a little less so because they're a bit more nimble, but still. Unter the entire time is just bouncing around on his platform.
God. It's like a tsunami of fat. Oh, God.
We take another way,
He says, kind of flapping and flopping around. Halfling, you are, at this point, fairly tipsy. So you're going to be at -10 for quite some time. Just cross-check.
But I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah, you absolutely are. You've got a flagon full. Grimwald, what are you up to for this leg of the journey?
Hanging out with Geshwin.
Okay. Well, Geshwin, what in the world are you and Grimwald doing during this leg of
Didn't-
I think we're going to be kind of closer up near the front, trying to help, being with Owen, essentially kind of helping try to guide between, I'm sure, like roots and all that stuff.
Okay. Well done. So, Owen's there, and again, moving and stopping, regularly as you have to kind of change course, and in some cases stop to actually let Oswald and Bartleby chop down a sapling that's in the way. It's that bad. This is definitely not a frequently used wagon trail. You reach a point where, actually, Geshwin, you being kind of in front, guiding the way, notice what would appear to be a signpost, a very old, disused signpost. Give me a perception roll.
Come on. Damn it.
So you go to sleep and take a nap.
Yeah.
No, you
take a break,
you
guys.
notice this sort of as you're there. You've got this sort of signpost that's kind of fallen on its side. It's got a hanging placard, as some do, with a wood burning and carving in it. You don't know what the hell it says because you don't perceive things today. No, but you notice it's there. That's kind of what you get. Grimwald, you notice that Geshwin sort of stops and is looking off into the trees. You of course see, following his line of vision, this post that's there.
Oh. Is there anything on there that would say anything, or is that like on the ground?
It's so give me a perception roll. It is on the ground for sure. Absolutely.
Easy, average.
We'll leave it at average. Only just. So you kind of look, and first of all, you notice this is old wood, right? It's wood that's seen a lot of weather. It's almost gray at this point. There is, in fact, a sign that once was attached by what would appear to be rope, which has rotted away, and then the entire sign has fallen over. Your astute observation is that it appears as if someone chopped the sign down, and it's been left here, and things are kind of growing over it at this point. It's that disused. Written on it in a fairly archaic version.
I can't read.
Oh, is shape, written on it is shapes.
That's a really good way to describe to somebody who cannot read what letters look like. That's interesting. Like
Yes.
just like archaic looking shapes.
If Oswald is nearby, I'll get his attention.
So you notice Owen is there, and he, he says. You get Oswald's attention about this point, and Bartleby's right there as well. And Geshwin kind of, generally all right around. You notice that the sign says Feldweg, Feldweg. It's in a really old sort of script style. You would have expected to see this many years ago as a common way of sort of, writing proper words.
Is it in like like common, or is it in like classical? Because classical would be like the language of nobility, like well-to-do-ness and all sorts of stuff.
It's in an ancient. So the way to think about it is it's a proper noun, so it's a name, right? So it's kind of timeless, but the script itself is like an ancient form of common, much the same as Old English. In some cases, shares words with English, but looks a bit different. It's similar to that. Feldweg, he says. And for the first time, Geschwin's like, yes, he's been saying Feldweg all this time.
So that's what those symbols mean, huh? Neat.
It would seem that this is here a town, yes, or at least a sign towards a town. Are you sure there's people here, Owen?
Home,
he says. Feldweg, home. He nods.
Well, why is your sign on the ground?
He says.
Oswald just shakes his shoulders or shrugs a little bit, and he moves on to look about other things. We ended up taking those weapons with us, didn't we?
Yes.
The spare two.
Yeah.
Well, if nobody else is going to take them, I was sparing enough to basically make like a little club. But if nobody's going to take it, I'll take it. Especially if it's a hand weapon basic, I will take it all day.
I believe looks like they're specialized.
Yeah, they
Fencing weapon.
Are they fencing?
Yep.
Yeah, then I'm better off. I believe I'm way better off just holding the stick with a little bobble on the end.
Okay.
That'll work better.
It worked out for that one guy who had gotten So you've got your club. You're good. So he's kind of pointing that general direction, right, toward.
If it looks possible, I'll take a minute and try and fix the sign, tie it back up.
Okay, so you interesting. So you I won't make you roll. So you kind of lean it up more than anything. You sort of jab it down in the dirt, right? Because it was clearly chopped as you're looking at it with an axe. When you chop trees down, obviously it kind of shaves little slices of the wood away, and it's very much like that at the bottom of the sign. It looks like it took about 6 or 7 shots to knock it over, and it's probably years and years since it stood. You stand it back up. The dome does not go away, but the sign is sort of there at a bit of an angle, and you feel like you've done a good deed for the township.
Perfect.
Okay. So you continue kind of moving forward, following Owen, kind of watching the sign disappear in the distance. It starts to get a bit hilly now. It occurs to you that you're heading northward, and northward is the Hager Crypts. It's not the best part of town, as it were. You pass off in the distance as you kind of climb a rise, and it's sort of bald, right? The trees kind of recede. You can see what looks like a rooftop in the distance. And it seems as if there's might be a blade of a windmill, right? You're watching it move ever so slightly. A lot less quickly than you would expect it to move, of course, if there were proper wind. The road descends the hill, leaving that in the distance. And soon enough, the trees part. You find yourself entering what can only be described as a decrepit community. So you'll apologize the colorful map here. Or you'll forgive the colorful map, but I don't have decrepit buildings in my arsenal. So you're coming in from the east. The first thing that you notice is that all of these buildings looked as if they were built by very inexperienced craftsmen. Nothing particularly ornate. A lot of sort of clapboard approach, kind of walls. In some cases, you might think you can even see through them. You can hear the sound of various sort of livestock, chickens and sheep and that sort of thing, kind of off in the distance as you enter the town. And it's extremely, extremely quiet other than that. Owen stops and says,
"Oh, Feldweg!"
and he points in.
Feldweg!
You can hear from the back, Unter says,
"Well, it's about time. Where are we going to get something to eat?" he says. "Someone come help me down."
What do you do?
Continue forward. As if busy.
Oswald's just looking at this magnificent stick he found. Really, it's really well constructed.
Just thinking about how you could take him out with it, right?
No, he's just appraising this stick for its well furnished, upkeepedness, and it's truly an exceptional torch. It was, and he keeps walking on, just admiring this torch. Doesn't seem to hear anything, doing the genius walk away from all the noise.
You hear a sort of defeated sigh from the back, just, and then the telltale sound of the wagon squeaking as he sort of slowly, deliberately makes his way down, just as it shakes.
It's like a mobility scooter for medieval ages.
Exactly. So you're here on the outskirts, sort of on the very eastern edge, right? Pretty much where the label is for Mill Pass. To the left, there's a curious assortment of hills. They're too steep to be natural and almost too consistent. It's almost like a series of cairns. The townsfolk you can see around, but not like you would expect in a typical village in the Reikwald. They're just here and there. There's not a lot of activity at the moment. You're not sure what's going on. Immediately, Owen scampers off as if completely glad to be home. He's waving his arms as he's kind of scampering toward number 4, which is sort of a larger building. Maybe it's some sort of pub or a restaurant or local gathering place. What do you do?
I kind of look around and say, I guess we should follow him and find either the constable or the mayor or at least the pub.
Wait for me.
Pub, here.
I'll just be along in a minute. You go ahead. Order me a turkey, he says.
Oh, turkey.
Yeah, not some turkey, a turkey.
Oh man, what a big man! What a big man!
You follow Owen.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You moving through past number 2. So number 2 appears to be, and again, these are ramshackle buildings, so the sort of color in this map is deceiving, but it's the tattered cloth. It looks like it was kind of knitted together with just, smaller disused bits of cloth that were maybe found, scavenged. It is, in fact, some sort of trading post, it looks like. Maybe the locals gather there to kind of bring their various bounties and trade for the goods that they need. Certainly there's no center of commerce like you're used to, but this would be it if there were one. Number 1 is a very curious tree. It's dead, but it seems to grow. It's pretty big. It's very dark in color and completely dissimilar to the rest of the foliage around. At its base is sort of lots and lots and lots of white powdery, sort of sooty looking stuff. A betting man would call it ash. You walk past it curiously. You notice kind of swaying from it is actually a hangman's rope. At the foot of sort of just beneath that is the remains that look like they've sort of fallen off of someone who apparently did something very wrong. You walk past that, not an uncommon sight, right, in kind of rural areas. Walking up to number 4. The door is barely hung on this building. The base of it is stone, arguably, but very crude. The door kind of opens and it sort of skates across the ground, not on its hinges properly. As Owen opens it and smiling, he kind of bids you to enter. Who goes in first?
I will.
You step in first.
I gladly step aside.
Yeah, you step aside. You hold the door for him. Yes, please go in. So no monsters jump out at you. That's a good thing. You step in and you smell just unclean people. You smell sweat. You smell urine as you step into this room. Into the building. The floor is dirt. There's hay strewn here and there to sop up various spills and whatnot. And there are a couple of tables kind of scattered around. It does, in fact, appear to be some sort of makeshift tavern. Give me a perception roll, Grimwald, as you walk in.
Average, difficult?
Yeah, average. Man, you are hot today. So you're kind of looking around. The first thing that you notice is the construction is here somewhat like home, and it's old. It looks like it's not been maintained, and in some places the wood's been pried up away from the ground, actually, to probably get rid of old boards and whatnot. But really, it just looks like it was a ruin more than anything. It strikes you. Right about that moment, you hear a voice.
A guest, eh?
Owen's like, pointing over.
You're not from around here, are you?
Says a man with a curious face. His right eye is a good 2 inches lower than the left. Almost like, there's something wrong there. His head's a little misshapen as he kind of walks out, standing up from a chair where he was seated. Looked like he was doing a wood etching, if the bits of wood at his feet are a clue.
We don't get many visitors here. Who, boy, are you?
My name's Grimwald. I'm part of a caravan that's just rolled into town here.
My name is Sven. I am the proprietor of this place,
he says. He has a tooth or so left.
Come in.
Nice.
Are you thirsty? Are you hungry? A caravan, you say? Oh, bless me, Sigmar be praised. We have food for you all.
Well, I'm fine, but I think the guy running the caravan will be quite hungry and quite thirsty when he arrives.
You're just thinking the two of them in a room chatting are going to be a real spectacular situation.
Tutor, are your friends outside?
And noticing that the door is open.
Bid them enter, boy.
Come on, Gershwin.
So
Yeah,
Gershwin,
I come in,
You-
kind of overhearing, and
yeah,
I walk in
you
and say,
step in. And
someone's
dressed
going to
in-
need a turkey if you've got one.
He looks at you with this incredibly confused look as you.
We've got no turkey. We've got lamb. We've got lamb.
Yes, you do.
A leg of lamb.
Maybe
then?
2 lambs.
You're going to need a whole lamp. As Oswald, like the door's being opened, Oswald takes a step and then he takes a step in, and then he looks at the door halfway through the step and steps back out.
Oh, yeah.
Starts to look at the door and then look at Owen with suspected eyes. Looks to the proprietor. And then he pulls out a little dagger and he starts to lift up the door a little bit and starts shaving off the bottom of the door and just letting people pass him by as he's fixing the door.
Okay.
So it'll stop dragging.
Your OCD kicks in and you start kind of doing that, and Owen kind of looks at you, and then it's as if he realizes what you're doing, and it's almost heroic in his eyes as he stands there with you. The rest of you kind of file in, and at this point, Oswald, as you're doing that, you can see right about now, right, Unter is actually making it almost to the market stand there. He stops and with his hand on the support to hyperventilate a bit longer. The rest of you go into this ramshackle sort of tavern. Gershwin, what do you do?
When I see Oswald doing that and kind of sizing up the door frame, I kind of have the light bulb moment thinking he's trying to measure the door, because I'm now looking out past him at Gunter and going to fit through the door.
The enormous this. I want fan art of this guy, and he's got to be 3 feet or 3 or 4 feet across.
So the fantastic Stephen Nedley will be doing a rendition of Unter's entire body for us. He and I
he's got the Adam and Eve style feather or the little plant leaves. Oh god. Oh man.
Yeah, he'll later go on to invent the drive-through.
I'll get you guys a glossy print if you promise to. That'll be the Myth Brigade T-shirt, right? Is Unter Wagner. So Gershwin, you stop and kind of, it occurs to you that not without butter and some elbow grease is he coming through this door. It's not happening. You could go out, maybe there's a stable around the corner. You don't know.
Okay. I kind of look towards Owen. I'm like, could we perhaps use the trading post for him to eat and rest at?
Owen laughs, which is disturbing because he had his tongue just flacking around out of the side, that sort of injury hole that he has. But he nods and then he gets the things under control. Daba, he says, and laughs again, and then claps you on the arm.
I kind of just go outside and kind of like direct the guards or the caravaneers, other people in the caravan, to kind of go around the side towards the stable.
Okay, so you pretty much the caravan is such, what remains of it, that you kind of park in that line of trees outside of it and kind of unload there. The stable itself is big enough for 2 mules or 1 Unter Wagner, and it is covered enough for that. So that takes a long time for him to get across. So we've got some time to cover. So what do you guys do? You kind of enter, and there's this very misshapen man. The more you're around him, the more you realize there's just not something that's not right there.
Well, so we're going to have leg of lamb. How many are eating?
He says.
20.
20.
How many are left with us?
Well, he counts as 10. Point out the door as a.
You've got about 6.
That does bring a good question. How many actual bodies do we actually still have?
You have
a portion.
There are 4 others.
4 others. Now, does Unter count as 8?
Well, if you count him as 8, there are 12 others. No, there are 4 aside from Unter. There are the 3 guards and 1 servant, who Grimwald you have some acquaintance with. And they're all kind of gathering around here. What's incredible is just your presence is starting to kind of gain attention. But the one thing you notice, though, is it disturbs you, as small as this town is. I mean, literally, there's not more than 100 people that live here, but no one's around. Where the hell are they? Troublesome.
No, we don't often get guests. I do not have enough to feed all of you. I could gather some chickens, or perhaps make a vegetable stew. Would that work?
That sounds like a good idea. I think Lord Unter will compensate you for anything you provide.
Well, he sort of kind of puts his hands together and bows a bit, clearly excited to have this influx of business. It doesn't look like he does much business if the pile of wood shavings at his chair are any indication. So
yes, I will wake up Tilda, and we will start immediately. Please make yourselves at home. Let me get you some fresh water,
he says excitedly. It's great to have water. No one seems to have noticed the dome, by the way. At least this guy hasn't.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Oswald, after he's done filing the door, he's gonna lift it up and see where it sits. Try to fit the door as best he can to make it shut and close normally. And then he's gonna look out into the town and try to roll. Or I'm looking to see where these people might have gone. If it looks super busy, or if there's just not enough people here, or I'm talking about foot traffic paths.
Give me a perception roll, Mr. Oswald, as you're out there looking. The rest of you are having a delicious wooden flagon of water.
Ooh, a critical.
Nice.
So, yeah, you notice that there definitely should be more people here. Your eyes darting around, you notice there are these very small gardens. There's wild livestock here and there. There should be people here. There's a fairly decent-sized well. And then you notice the plume of smoke to the south. Not large, solid, but not terribly large. Not a burning building, but a decided plume of smoke nonetheless.
So with Oswald still holding the door up from it falling back down to the ground after he shaved a little bit of it, he's looking out through through this village and up into the sky. And does this smoke start to billow or collect up at the top the rest of the smoke had?
So it does, and you know what to look for, but it does kind of high. I mean, you're sort of far in at this point, right? So from someone directly beneath it, it would be hard to notice because the smoke sort of goes up anyway. But yes, it absolutely does, and yeah.
Oswald lets go of the door, and he hasn't addressed the hinges of the door or the way the door is probably hinged by like some sort of like old lashing technique or something like that. Lets it fall. The extra distance makes a louder noise, and he just starts walking off towards this plume of smoke without really saying anything.
Okay, so you do. So you start kind of walking off, and Oswald, or the rest of you see the door shut. Oswald clearly seems to have closed this. Now, Bartleby, you're there, as always, ever kind of watching over the...
To make it clear, I didn't shut it. I just dropped, like, I left it open. I'm in the doorway, and I drop it, and, like, it slams back down on the ground. And then Oswald's going somewhere.
Yeah, got it. So the door actually is kind of about halfway open at this point. You've got the bottom kind of sorted out for the most part, but yeah, you're right. You need to sort the hinges out. You're like, this hero comes to town, this great adventurer fixed our door. But you start walking away, and then Bartleby, you're there as usual, and kind of ever watchful. You see Oswald just start walking off with clear purpose. What do you do?
That's really unusual, knowing that Oswald typically won't like half fix things, I'm assuming, and Bartleby will just go off after him.
You start walking out, and almost immediately you notice the plume of smoke as well. You see Bartleby, of course, walk away, the rest of you with your water there. And so the innkeep is so excited. He's tooling around kind of behind this dilapidated counter and getting dishes out and things that have clearly not seen the light of day in maybe years. But he's almost completely oblivious to what you're even doing. What do you guys do as you see people start to file out?
Where are they going?
Follow them.
Grimwald walks past you.
Before I leave, I just kind of look to Sven and say, do we get many locals in here? I haven't seen hardly anyone in town.
Oh, no one comes here? Oh, well, no one but the damned anyway,
he says, looking a little bit distant for a second. And
but you're here.
He's polishing a dish.
Praise Sigmund.
Well, I'm thoroughly creeped out.
I'll be back. I trot out the door after the others.
Okay.
Wait, so I'm the only one left there?
Yeah.
I kind of look back and kind of get up and drink my water. And is there anybody in this town?
Well, of course, he says. He laughs. Silly. What were all these buildings for if no one's here? They're at the burning. They're at the burning.
Oh. What's the burning for?
Oh, the witch.
Oh. Is she the one that created this big dome wall?
The
Magic wall?
What?
Never mind.
He looks sort of concerned.
I'll be back for the lamb, and I quickly...
Give me a fellowship. I'm going to ask you to give me a fellowship roll. Or actually, let's do charm. Give me a charm roll to sort of disengage from this exchange. Because it could get weird. Not that it's not already.
Too late.
It could get really weird.
Oh. You notice...
Oh, no.
I never roll high in any game except this one.
He's polishing, and he says, he stops and kind of looks at you and nods, and you walk out. So there'll be something left there for you later, Yeshwan. So you step out. Your friends have already stepped kind of away from the situation, and actually Bartleby and Oswald are kind of a ways, and you've made your way between 3 and 18 at this point, and are kind of walking down with purpose. So you kind of walk. You hear Unter, "Wait, is there no turkey?" He's almost made his way to the tree at this point, just kind
of. Oswald just looks back, looks at Bartleby, and then looks at Unter and says, "There is lamb awaiting you."
Oh, no lamb, he says with this huge grin.
Make sure you get your guards and your servants to the stables and get our things set up. We will be. I must go see the edge of the village. And Oswald just turns and starts walking even more purpose.
Good boy. Good thinking. More lamb for me then. Right.
I see. Starts kind of make your way his way around. So you move down. Ultimately, you more or less sort of get back together there toward the very southern part of the village. So perched on top of a hill, on the opposite side of a few buildings and some trees and such that it's obscured from the center of town, is a post. And tied to this post appears to be a figure. And at his feet are flames. And around him are a lot of people relative to what you saw in town. There's a eerie silence in that direction. You can't really hear any crackling just yet. You're a bit of a distance away, but what's crazy is this plume of smoke going up and touching the dome, and this person lashed to this post. Now, being from the city, you may have seen this before, or at least certainly heard of it. Burning witches is common. Magic and the practice thereof is forbidden unless you're sanctioned effectively by the government, trained to maintain your control. Still, it's this really kind of awe-striking vision as you see this hill and these people encircling this one person who is clearly about to meet his or her end. What do you do?
Not going to disturb them.
Yeah, there seems to be a whole lot of them. Do I see what kind of person this is that's up lashed to this pole?
No, you're about, say, 20 yards away, 25 yards away maybe at this point. So it's hard to make out. It's a silhouette. It appears to be a man with long hair. And as you're standing there kind of watching, you hear some, burn the witch, burn the witch, burn the witch. It's kind of, yes. For Sigmar, clearly pious people, villagers. And then you hear the screams as the flames start to burn and blister and peel away at the flesh. It curdles your blood as he straining against the lashes that are clearly tied tightly enough that he's going nowhere as the flames consume him. It's definitely a male from the tone of the voice. What do you do? Maintain your distance?
Yeah.
Oswald's just kind of, he's probably seen many a burn or two, but he just kind of stops and does this seem to be about the center? He's a little bit taken aback that they would do this. Do they seem to have like a sheriff here or somebody who is like in charge more or less, like maybe a mayor or someone who's leading these people to set this person on fire? Or
you would think that there are some elders involved. You have no way of knowing what law enforcement situation is. This is a very remote village, and it's very unlike many you've been through as well. It just seems something's not right with it. At this moment, as you're standing there in silence, kind of looking back and forth between your group and really kind of wondering what's going on, you hear this person scream very clearly. It almost reverberates. It was the only way! And then his voice distorts as the flames burn and scorch him, and he dies. And this is where we will stop, because Jim has a hard stop at 11. And there's so much more of the story to be told. You guys having fun? What do you think?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we'll set a date for next month, and we'll figure out just how long it's going to take Unter Wagner to make it to the tavern. We'll find out how many lambs he can eat. We'll find out what in the hell these people are doing, burning folks at the stake, why you're under a dome, and whether or not Oswald actually fixed the door. We'll find all those things out.
Cliffhangers.
Don't worry, that door is going to get fixed. It's going to be the best functioning door.
The building will fall down over time, but the door will still be standing there. There'll be a label on the map for that door.
Just wait till he gets the WD-40 out and starts, fixing the hinges.
Awesome. So thank you guys. Those of you who tuned in on the stream, thanks for watching. Those of you who are checking out the whole YouTube thing, the post-fix, thank you so much for taking the time to check out the channel. We are in Myth Brigade, and these are my favorite people on the planet. We'll see you next time.